1. Following the Kuravai dance and the Veriatu ritual, a grand banquet was hosted for the assembled guests. However, the feast held no appeal for Vandhiyathevan. His body was weary and his mind was troubled. Nevertheless, his friend Kadambur, seated beside him, proudly pointed out and identified the various guests present. Apart from Parivettarayar and Sambhavarayar, the gathering included Vandhiyathevan Maravarayar, the great landlord of Kundrathur, and Mumudi Pallavarayar. Kadambur leaned close to his friend's ear, speaking softly so that no one else could overhear, and identified others such as Tantongi Kalingarayar, Vanangamudi Munayarayar, Devasenattipadi Poovarayar, Anjata Singamudarayar, Retai Kudai Rajalayar, and the great chieftain of Kolli Hills. These dignitaries were no ordinary men, nor were they individuals one could easily gather together in a single place. Almost every one of them was either a petty chieftain or a warrior who, through acts of exceptional valour, had earned the honours and status accorded to a chieftain. In those times, the title Arayar was a linguistic evolution of the terms Raja or Arasar, king. The title Arayar was bestowed upon petty kings as well as upon individuals who, though not kings by birth, possessed a status and distinction equivalent to royalty. It was also customary to address such individuals simply by prefixing the title Arayar to the name of their native town or region. In those days, the term petty king did not refer to individuals who merely inherited the royal title by birth and spent their lives wallowing in the luxuries and comforts of the palace. Only those who were true heroes, ready to stand at the very forefront of the battlefield and fight, could hope to sustain and preserve their sovereign authority. Consequently, every one of these men was a veteran of numerous battles, bearing the scars of war as badges of their hard-won glory. Today, everyone submitted to the rule of Emperor Sundara Chola of Parayarai, exercising authority within their respective domains. Some even held high-ranking official positions within the Chola Empire. Vandhiyathevan should, quite naturally, have felt a sense of elation at seeing so many prominent figures of the Chola Empire gathered in a single place. Yet, no such joy arose within his heart. The thought, "Why have all these people gathered here?" recurred frequently in his mind. Various vague suspicions arose within him, swirling and unsettling his thoughts. With this confusion weighing on his mind, Vandhiyathevan went to retire to the private quarters Kadambur had arranged for him. As a great number of guests had arrived, the only sleeping space available to Vandhiyathevan was an open pavilion situated in a corner of the upper terrace of that vast mansion. "You are utterly exhausted, therefore lie down and sleep in peace. I will attend to the other guests and then come and lie down right beside you," Kadambur said, before taking his leave. The moment he lay down, Vandhiyathevan's eyes began to droop. Very swiftly, the goddess of sleep claimed him. But to what avail? For there exists that entity called the mind, something that even the goddess of sleep cannot bring under her complete control. Even though the body lay motionless and the eyes remained shut, thoughts buried deep within the psyche transformed themselves into dreams. In that realm of dreams, a multitude of events and experiences, devoid of meaning and defying all logic, unfolded. From somewhere far away, the sound of a fox howling could be heard. One fox became 10, 10 became 100, and soon a multitude of foxes were howling in unison. Howling incessantly, they drew closer and closer, ever closer, to Vandhiyathevan. In the pitch darkness, the eyes of those jackals glowed like tiny embers as they advanced upon him. Vandhiyathevan glanced in the opposite direction, contemplating an escape by running the other way. Yet, in that very direction he looked, a pack, comprising tens, hundreds, even thousands of dogs, came bounding toward him in a unified mass, barking furiously.
The eyes of those hunting hounds gleamed like fiery sparks. Vandhiyathevan shuddered with dread as he contemplated the fate that would surely befall him were he to be trapped between the jackals and the hunting dogs. Fortunately, a temple appeared before him. Sprinting at full speed, he dashed into the open temple and bolted the entrance door. Turning around, he realized it was a temple dedicated to goddess Kali. From behind the idol of Mother Kali, whose mouth gaped open in a terrifying grimace, a priest emerged. In his hand, he clutched a fearsome sickle. "So, you have come! Come!" the priest intoned, drawing closer, ever closer, until he stood right beside him.
What is the history of the royal lineage into which you were born? For how many years have your kinsmen ruled? Speak the truth, asked the priest. The Vandhiyathevans of the Vana clan ruled for 300 years. However, during my father's time, we lost our kingdom to the Vandhiyathevans, replied Vandhiyathevan. In that case, you are not a suitable sacrificial offering. Flee at once, commanded the priest. Suddenly, in the very spot where goddess Kali was enshrined, Lord Kanaperumal appeared in a divine vision. In the sanctum of Lord Krishna, 2 women bearing garlands in their hands entered, singing the verses of Andal, and began to dance. As Vandhiyathevan watched this spectacle in rapt ecstasy, he heard a song being sung behind him. "We have seen, we have seen, we have seen. We have beheld sights delightful to the eye," and turned around to look. The singer was none other than Azhvarkadiyan Nambi, or rather, no, it was Azhvarkadiyan's head that was singing. That severed head alone lay placed upon the sacrificial altar. Unable to bear the sight of this gruesome scene, Vandhiyathevan recoiled. He bumped his head against a pillar. The dream shattered. His eyes flew open. Yet he found himself confronted by a scene that seemed to inextricably blend the realms of dream and reality. Directly opposite the spot where he lay, a head was visible atop the perimeter wall of the Kadambur Palace. It was, indeed, the head of that very Azhvarkadiyan Nambi. This time, it was certainly neither a dream nor a mere hallucination, for no matter how long he gazed at it, the head remained fixed in that very spot. Moreover, it was easily discernible that this was not merely a disembodied head, but that a body lay attached to it, for Azhvarkadiyan's hands were gripping the very edge of the wall's parapet. Furthermore, he was peering down with intense concentration at the interior grounds lying beneath the wall. What on earth is he observing there with such intense scrutiny? There must surely be some treacherous plot afoot here. Azhvarkadiyan could not possibly have come here with good intentions. He has undoubtedly arrived with some malicious motive, intent on committing a wicked deed. Is it not his duty, as Kandamuran's bosom friend, to prevent him from carrying out such a nefarious act? Could he simply lie idly by while harm befell the very household that had so graciously offered him a meal? Vandhiyathevan sprang to his feet. He retrieved the sheathed sword he had set aside nearby and tucked it into his waist sash. He then strode toward the direction where Azhvarkadiyan's head had been sighted. Hadn't Vandhiyathevan been resting in a pavilion situated in a corner of the palace's upper terrace? As he set out from there and headed toward the parapet wall, he had to weave his way past, step over, and skirt around the various architectural features that adorned the terrace. The pavilion spires, raised platforms, ornamental finials, and pillars. After proceeding in this manner for a short distance, Vandhiyathevan suddenly halted, having caught the sound of voices drifting in from somewhere nearby. Clinging to a pillar that stood there, he positioned himself within its shadow and cautiously peered out. Down below, in a narrow courtyard enclosed on 3 sides by towering walls, sat a group of 10 or 12 men. The high walls obscured much of the moonlight. However, a lamp burning in an iron sconce embedded in one of the walls cast a faint glow.
every single person gathered there was a prominent figure he had recognized during that evening's banquet. Petty chieftains and high-ranking officials of the Chola Empire. They must surely have assembled there in the dead of night to deliberate upon a matter of the utmost importance. It was precisely what they were doing and saying that Azhvarkadiyan was observing with such keenness from atop the compound wall. There was no doubt that Azhvarkadiyan was an exceptionally cunning fellow. From his vantage point, he could, albeit somewhat indistinctly, see those conversing below. He could, however, hear their conversation with perfect clarity. Yet, those below could not see Azhvarkadiyan. Such was the architectural layout of the palace walls and the surrounding compound walls at that particular spot. Azhvarkadiyan had somehow managed to discover just such a location. He was indeed a clever fellow, of that there was no doubt. However, all his cunning would prove futile against Vandhiyathevan, the scion of the Varna clan. He would seize that masquerading Vaishnavite by the scruff of the neck and drag him out.
However, if he were to attempt to capture him in that manner, he could not approach the compound wall where the man was hiding without attracting the attention of the crowd gathered below. There might be some inherent danger in walking openly in a way that exposed him to their view. Sambhuvareya's remark, "He certainly chose a fine day to show up here," suddenly flashed through his mind. All these men had gathered here to deliberate upon some matter of great importance. It was abundantly clear that they had no desire for outsiders to become privy to their deliberations. Under such circumstances, if they were to suddenly catch sight of him, might they not immediately grow suspicious of him? And before he could even alert them to Azhvarkadiyan's presence, the fellow would likely have already leaped down from the wall and made his escape. Therefore, the only outcome would be to cast suspicion upon himself. If the man lying there were to ask, "Why have you come here?" what answer could he possibly give? It would only serve to land Kadambur in a difficult predicament. Aha! Look there! Kadambur is seated on one side of this gathering. It appears he too is participating in the assembly's deliberations. If I question Kadambur in the morning, the whole truth will surely be revealed. At that moment, a covered palanquin placed near the gathering caught Vandhiyathevan's attention. Ah, is this not the very palanquin that followed Parivetraya and his elephant? Where in this palace might the woman who was inside it, the one who briefly parted the curtain to look out, be now? I hear that the old man hasn't even sent her to the Antapuram, the women's quarters. Such is the trouble that arises when older men marry young women. Suspicion consumes their very souls. They cannot bear to be separated from their young wives for even a single minute. Perhaps, who knows, Parivetraya's young wife might still be inside this very palanquin even now. Aha! Behold the fate of this mighty warrior. At such an advanced age, he has become ensnared by a young woman, suffering as her slave. And it is not as if she is a Rati, a Menaka, or a Ramba. Vandhiyathevan had not forgotten the sense of revulsion he felt during that brief moment when he caught a glimpse of her. I cannot fathom what sort of infatuation the valiant Parivetraya holds for such a woman. Even more astonishing, however, is the obsession of Azhvarkadiyan. It seems he too is keeping watch from atop the wall, solely because this palanquin has been placed here. But what connection, if any, exists between the two of them? Who are we to say? She might perhaps be his sister, or she could even be his lover. Parivetraya might have forcibly abducted her. He is certainly the sort of man capable of doing such a thing. That, it seems, is why Azhvarkadiyan is wandering about like this, hoping for an opportunity to catch a glimpse of her and speak with her. But what business is it of ours? We might as well just go lie down and get some sleep." Just as the young man reached this conclusion, he heard his own name being mentioned in the conversation taking place below. Immediately, he began to listen with heightened attention. "That young fellow who came here claiming to be a friend of your son, where is he sleeping? Not a single word of our conversation must reach his ears. You must bear in mind that he is a man in the service of the Vandhiyathevan, chief commander of the northern region. Until the time comes for our plan to be firmly established and executed, no one else must get wind of it. If there is even the slightest suspicion that the lad has gleaned any information, however trivial, he must not be allowed to leave this fortress. It would be prudent to simply finish him off once and for all." Readers can well imagine how Vandhiyathevan must have felt upon hearing this. Yet, he did not budge from his spot. He resolved to stay and listen to their entire conversation to the very end. Who was the Vandhiyathevan of the northern region? He was Emperor Sundara Chola's eldest son, the crown prince next in line to ascend the Chola throne. What possible objection could these men have to his working under him? What secret matters were they about to discuss that must be kept hidden from the crown prince? At that moment, Vandhiyathevan caught the sound of Kadambur speaking up in defense of his friend. Vandhiyathevan is lying down and sleeping peacefully in the corner pavilion of the upper floor. The conversation of this gathering will not reach his ears. Nor is he the sort of person to meddle in matters that do not concern him. Even if he were to learn something, it would in no way jeopardize your plans. I take full responsibility for that, declared Kadambur. I too am pleased to see that you place such trust in him. However, none of us here have ever met him before. That is precisely why I offered a word of caution. The matter we are about to discuss concerns the very succession of a vast empire. Should even a single word leak out due to carelessness, it could lead to catastrophic consequences. All of you must bear this in mind, said Parivetraya.
Hi everyone, if you enjoyed this episode, please like and share this video. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe for the next chapter of Ponniyin Selvan.